many edits, and even after this event, I'll be going through more edits. And most importantly, I really wanted to give people a chance to give back to their communities and give them a chance to do something about genocide and not be a bystander. So I really hope you guys enjoy it, and thank you for coming. Separation. Puhiza, her father, mother, and Nessa hold each other's hands. Young Toka enters the stage, and Puhiza takes his hand. They form a link. Suddenly, the mother and Nessa are violently dragged out of the spotlight by an invisible force. Gunshots, bomb explosions, and screams of terror are heard. Then, silence. Bobby and Toka walk out of the spotlight, defeated. Only Puhiza remains. And she begins a dance of war. Friends forever? Puhiza, 9 years old, and Toka, 9 years old, are sitting in the living room floor. Don't worry. Your parents will come back for you soon.
I miss them.
You have me. Friends forever?
Friends forever. Are you scared?
I'm scared of the soldiers.
But they won't hurt us, right? People like little kids.
But they don't like Albanian little kids. They think we're bad.
Why?
I don't know. They think we did something wrong.
Something real bad?
Yeah.
Like what?
Nessa says they want Kosovo. They want to kick us out. I don't know, but it must be really bad because they're mean and use guns.
Can't we just tell them it wasn't us, that we did nothing bad? Then they would leave us alone, and my parents could come back and get me.
That won't work, Toka. We're not allowed to go near them.
It's not fair. Why do they get to scare us?
It's not fair, Toka, I know. But we can't go up to them. It's dangerous.
Do you think they'll figure it out on their own then?
I hope so. I hope they will figure out we're good kids. Soldiers are supposed to be smart.
No. I think they're just supposed to be mean.
Come on. Let's play Sorry Masu Hibara.
Ken, I want to play outside.
We can't go outside, silly. There are soldiers on the streets, and rubble and glass. Come on, we'll call Nessa too.
She won't play with us. She thinks we're too young for her.
I know, but she doesn't get to see her friends anymore.
Nessa! Come play Sorry with us.
She must be upstairs, probably reading that paper we aren't supposed to look at.
Well, my parents' faces are on the paper. I should get to see it.
I know. Big people are strange. Okay, your turn to roll. A city in America, 10 years after the 1999 war in Kosovo. It's a beautiful day at the park. Puhiza, sits on a bench, reading a book. Toka spots her, stares at her, and then approaches.
Puhiza? I can't believe it's you.
What?
You remember me? The war.
Toka,
Yes.
10 years. I had spent 10 years.
So good to see you. I've thought about you and your family for these past 10 years.
And we've thought about you.
Glad I picked the right day to come to the park.
Me too.
What are you doing here? Do you live here?
Yes, do you?
Yes, I live 10 minutes away from here.
You're kidding. That's so close.
What about you?
Not too far from here.
You haven't changed much.
I hope I look older than 9.
That's not what I meant at all. You look like a woman. You look lovely.
Toka, I was kidding.
Oh, you still got that sense of humor, huh?
No, actually. Not so much anymore. Comes out once in a while, I guess.
Of course, it would come out just for me. Would you care for some lunch? See if we can catch up on 10 years? There's a good place up the road.
Yes. Yes, I'd like that a lot. I can't believe it's you. You're not a ghost.
I'm not a ghost, are you? How are your mom and dad? And Nesa, she's got to be, how old now?
She's 23 now. They're fine. Just fine.
I'd like to see them too. If that's possible.
Of course.
I remember playing board games, marbles, cards with you and Nesa. She let us win most of the time. All her friends were locked up in their own houses, I remember.
It was too dangerous to try and visit family, friends. Nesa was never able to visit her best friend in the countryside.
I remember that. Her friend lived too close to the village where the massacres occurred.
Yeah.
Do you think we annoyed her sometimes?
I think she was just happy to have someone to look over. It made her fear less consuming. It distracted her from the terrors she was old enough to understand. But we probably annoyed her just a little bit.
How is she doing?
Toka, I should leave.
What about lunch?
I have to go take care of something. I forgot. I have to go.
Well, can we meet tomorrow?
I don't know about
Or the
tomorrow.
next day?
Toka, maybe we should not meet at all. It's been 10 years.
But I thought your eyes sort of lit up when you saw me. I'm sorry, excuse the poet in me. You okay? You look distraught. Did I say something?
No, I have to go. I'm sorry.
Wait, how can I reach you? No, I could change your mind.
Please don't try to reach me. I don't want to recall those terrible times. Toka, it's too much. I'm sorry. Goodbye.
I'll wait for you here if you change your mind. I want to see my best friend tomorrow. I'll wait. She comes back tomorrow or the next day.
In a small house, the day after, Puhiza and her father are having dinner. The room is neat and cozy.
You made me favorite. Pita de mia.
As long as you don't get tired of it.
Never. So, today I asked my manager to give me the keys.
Oh, Bob, 축하한다, 네.
She turned bright red until I pulled out my keychain.
Bob, it's pronounced keys, not kiss.
You should have seen her face, bright red.
Well, now you'll never confuse keys for kiss again.
Can you blame me? It's not easy to learn a new language when you're an old man. Starting from scratch in a new country. Anyway, It gave us a good laugh. Now I have another joke to tell.
Thanks for the laughs, Mom.
Anytime. Besides, you look like you could use it today. What's wrong? Did you see a ghost?
I saw someone out in the park yesterday
Who?
from Kosovo.
Who?
You won't believe it. Toka.
Toka. Our Toka.
Yes.
How is he?
Good. Same person, but grown up. I ran away, Dad. I ran away from him.
It's been too long, Puhiza. You finally see him and you don't have the courage to tell him. It's not right. You should see him again. Tell him the truth. He has a right to know.
I know, you're right, but...
No, Puhiza, you must tell him what happened to his parents. It will help you with the guilt. You have gone through enough. You don't need the added burden of guilt.
I know. I'm going to tell him. I'll figure out a way.
Good. Did he ask about Mom and Niesa?
He thinks they're alive. He talked about Nesa with such lightheartedness, I couldn't bear to tell him. He remembered how she'd let us win when we were cooped up inside the house. And then Dad, remember how Mom would give us little prizes when we win a game? Random little scraps that she'd find around the house. You both were so good at finding scraps, even in the kitchen. Who knew how many things you could make from substituting this ingredient with that?
Please, talk to him, Puhiza. He will help you. You should talk about it more, you know. I can't talk about it. I'm not good at it. Talk to him, please. He will understand you. I don't know how to protect you from this, but you have gone through the same experience. You are best friends. He will understand your loss.
But he won't know that I am the cause behind his loss.
That's why you need to tell him what happened. And move on. It makes me sad to see my daughter in pain. You're all that I have left, sweetheart, and you're too hard on yourself.
I don't want you worrying about me. I'll manage it somehow. Dad, please tell me another one of your jokes.
Okay. Remember when I discovered beer and vending machines? I didn't know what fruit meant, and I thought, heck, I can't believe it's easier to get alcohol in America than in Kosovo. Oh,
Thanks, Bob.
of course. A whole year with us, such a good kid. Never complained about food shortages. Bring Toka around, will you?
I'm gonna try, Dad.
Same park as before, a few days later. The weather is cold and the park is nearly abandoned. Puhiza is by the same bench, pacing back and forth. Toka shows up.
Puhiza, you're here. I'm glad to see you. I've been coming here the past few days. I was hoping you'd show up.
Thank you for being so persistent. I'm sorry I ran away from you the other day. I acted like a fool.
It's okay, I understand. You didn't act like a fool.
How are you? What do you do here? It's so strange to see you here in front of me.
I know, I have so many questions I want to ask you. I'm good. I just transferred to the university a few blocks from here. Don't tell me you go there too.
No, I go to the one across town. They have a better dance program.
So you dance? That doesn't surprise me. I remember you twirling around and coughing every few steps.
You had to go there, didn't you? Clumsy as these feet may have been, I still beat you in soccer. And not only once, every single time.
Ouch. You just opened up old wounds.
Make fun of my clumsiness again? What do they say? An eye for an eye, an old wound for an old wound. If I've done one thing right, it's been to dance. What are you studying?
Human rights.
That makes sense. You've always had the passionate advocate inside of you, even as a tough 9-year-old boy.
I'd like to think so. If I can prevent what happened to us from happening elsewhere, then I feel like I've done my duty. Like I didn't go through hell for nothing, you know?
I know what you mean. Like being through the war automatically gave us this duty to not be bystanders.
That's right. Because genocide happened with the will of ordinary people. The murderers used their claws, but ordinary people sharpen those claws. Indifference kills more than bombs and guns, I think.
You will do good things for this world.
Thank you.
Toka, about the other
It's
day.
the war. I couldn't talk about it for a long time either, you know. It must have been really hard for you to see me, you know. To remind you of those times that you'd rather forget.
That's not it.
You know, to remind you of our green city turned gray, of being startled awake by gunshots that shook up your entire body, of hearing your mothers wail for their missing children, seeing brick houses turn to rubble, hearing your Serbian neighbors who your aunt had coffee with run up to their balcony and shout that they've been saving their special weapons to white out dirty Albanians. Do you remember that?
Of course. My mother never trusted them.
That's the other thing about genocide. They dehumanize you. You're the other, the cockroach, the pest, the vermin. You know, there are 7 steps to genocide. Did you know that?
No.
There's classification, symbolization, dehumanization, organization, polarization, identification, and then extermination. Oh, I'm sorry. I go off on rants sometimes. Read this stuff in school every day.
It's okay. It's good stuff. Important.
Anyway, Puhiza, my point is that I understand why you left the park the other day. I belong to a group of memories that you'd rather forget.
But you were a good memory. My best friend during the war. You made everything less scary. You were my rock. I was your rock. And you were like a little brother to Nesa. She adored you.
I would have cried for my mom and dad every night if it hadn't been for you. For your family to take me in during the war, when food was scarce and my parents were branded, I will always be indebted to your family and Nesa. She was a good older sister.
Yeah. I miss her, Toka.
She didn't make it, did she?
No. They killed her during the war. They killed my mom, too.
But I don't understand. Your neighbor said that your family made it safely past the border and into Dieber. They didn't know either, did they?
Oh. We didn't want to tell them while the war was still going on. We couldn't ruin their morale. People needed strength and hope. Not that we could reach them anyway. The phone lines were damaged and cut off. We only told them about their deaths after the war. It was heartbreaking.
I'm so sorry. I immigrated to Sweden after the border opened up, or else I would have found out. Those soldiers. Bastards. What happened, Puhiza?
When the United States pressured Macedonia to finally open its borders, our parents decided to escape. There was danger in fleeing, as you know. Would the trains really take us to Macedonia? We had neighbors who'd gone into trucks and were sent straight to villages to dig up their own graves. Still, it was more dangerous to stay. My mother's worst fear was that they would storm inside our house and kill us, and her second fear was rape. You know how they would round up the young girls in the neighborhoods and take them inside the trucks?
Sick animal.
Yeah. And Mesa was already 13 at the time. The perfect prey. So our parents decided to escape. We walked for many miles, the soldiers following us with their guns. It's ironic because we were walking up green hills with wildflowers all around us. It was spring, you know, but the sight brought us no comfort or sense of hope. A mile or two from the train tracks, they separated us into two lines. One line for those who had documents, one line for those who didn't.
You didn't all have passports, did you?
No. We wanted to stay together in the same line, but we couldn't.
Go on, Puhiza.
Dance of cruelty. The soldier, Puhiza, her father, mother, and Mesa appear on the stage, in the hills by the wildflowers. The soldier forcefully separates everyone into two lines. One for those with passports, one for those without. The soldier demands that everyone without passports turn their back to the soldiers. Mother and Nisa are killed.
You don't have to go on.
Please. I have to say it out loud. I fainted. My dad, he held me up. He who couldn't even hold himself up. He was shaking. He was shaking like this. His knees were starting to give up on him. They silenced us. We kept on marching in fear, in suffocated silence, until we reached the train tracks. Then we boarded the train and reached the Red Cross camp, to a family's house in Deaver, and then finally here, in America, the land of dreams.
Those fucking animals. I'm so sorry. Despite everything, I'm happy you and your father are here. The soldiers didn't win, you know. You're both here, continuing with your lives, going to college, living the American dream, some would say.
I don't know if the American dream is an illusion or not. So many can't reach it, no matter how hard they try. But people have been good to us. Kind. Helpful. Genuine. Interested in our stories. Americans have been our saviors. We arrived as helpless refugees, but they helped us make a new home. Toka, there's something else I need to tell you. something I have been hiding for a long time.
What is it?
Your parents were murdered because of me.
What? What are you talking about?
I had gone outside to get bread from our neighbor across the street. She always gave extra loaves when she could. Such a nice woman, like a grandma, really, with her shawl and endearing smile. It was broad daylight, the safest time to go outside. The sun was shining. I even remember getting distracted and looking at the mimosa tree. So pretty and yellow. Then I saw two soldiers up the street in the distance, and
Puhiza, please just get to your point. What does this have to do with my parents?
it will all make sense, I promise. I became very afraid when I saw the soldiers, so I hid behind some bushes. They came close, and I could hear them laughing and making jokes.
Did they see you?
No. I was so small, the bush kept me out of view. After they walked down the street, I dashed inside, no bread in hand. When I stumbled inside, I saw your parents. My mom was furious that I left the house, but your mom protected me. She knew what to say to her. Best friends know how to do that. It's okay, Bessa. She was just hungry. She won't do it again, isn't that right, Puhiza? A look of helplessness crossed my mother's face. Her daughter was just a hungry little girl.
Lisa, I don't understand where you're going with this.
Your parents had come to pick you up. They would always come at random times, but you weren't there. My father had taken you to the underground doctor for that cold that you had. They were just leaving. They couldn't stay too long, you know. Their only choice was to come and pick you up another time. It might be next week, they said, or the next night, at midnight, at dawn, whenever they could find an escape and a friend to guide them. Your mom kissed my cheek, and your dad gave me a little piece of candy.
I remember that cold. Nobody told me that they visited.
They did that day. And I was scared that they'd take you away from me. I was scared that if they took you, the soldiers would kill you, and I wouldn't see you again. Ever. Who would squeeze my hand when, at night, when I got scared? Your parents were on the news, and I knew the Serbs wanted them dead, so I thought, if they pick Toka up, Toka will die.
Lisa, you're making me really anxious.
I had to protect you. I had to protect my best friend. So I told them that it was safe to go outside, even though I knew the soldiers might be close by. And your parents walked outside.
When? What? My parents walked outside and what? Why are you bringing up my parents? Who told you to bring them up?
I thought that big kids could handle the soldiers. But your parents were spotted and shot after they left my house.
You were shot in front of your house? No, that's not possible. I would have found out. God.
It's my fault, Toka. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
How is it your fault?
Because I told them it was safe to go outside.
Why? Why would you do that?
I thought your parents were like spies, that they could escape somehow. After all, they were always in hiding, posters everywhere, but they were never caught. I thought your mom and your dad were like Superman, Superwoman. I remember my parents telling me that they were heroes, publishing articles to give the Albanian people hope. I thought that maybe I was protecting my best friend. I can't believe that I was so selfish, a bad kid, a really bad kid. I crushed that piece of candy and threw it away. They should have found me behind those bushes.
So they were shot by the soldiers? Did you see it happen with your own eyes?
In a frantic hurry, my mom hid us and then went up to the balcony. She saw their bodies up the road. Red blood staining the pavement. She saw them drag their bodies into a truck and leave. It's a miracle they did not come back for us.
Why am I hearing this for the first time?
Because
Don't you think I had a right to know?
my family sheltered you from the truth.
Sheltered me?
We wanted you to believe that your parents were alive. Later on, when your aunt picked you up amidst the chaos, we lost touch. After the war, we didn't know if you had made it, and then later, I was afraid to contact you.
Did you ever try?
Once.
Just once? Just once?
Toka, I didn't know you were alive for many years. But last year, I found out that you'd come to the U.S. I didn't know which city, which state. I wanted to find you, but I couldn't figure out a way to tell you about your parents. And then I saw you in the park a few days ago. I was so glad to see you, but I couldn't tell you. It was really difficult for me.
Difficult for you?
I'm sorry. I'm a coward.
All of this anger I have built up inside me. Why did God allow this? Why are innocent people made to suffer? You see that little patch of flowers right there? And you think, maybe that's one of God's miracles. Or a royal blue sky, or a kind smile from a stranger. And this sounds silly, maybe, but you come to notice these things when you're desperate to see some sort of goodness in the world. You search for goodness with piercing eyes.
I know what you mean.
But you don't. I've cried many nights. I've hated them. I've wondered how they were capable of inflicting so much pain. I've read. I've researched. I studied with Daniel Goldhagen, you know him. And I thought maybe that would bring me some closure, but it hasn't. It hasn't brought me any closure.
Sorry.
It's like I'm stuck between these two worlds. One part of me hates them. My blood boils when I think of what they did. The other part of me has to be analytical. To get through class, to do research without showing emotion, and then to find out that my parents were shot in front of your house, the house that was my shelter.
I know. The place that was supposed to protect you.
The worst part is not knowing how they died. I imagine that they were cut open, they were burned, they were tortured, that my mother was raped. All the stories we hear about on the news every day. Vivid images play in my mind to this day. The worst scenario always. I've longed to know how they died because then I could have some peace of mind. Maybe a grave where I can visit them. Do you know what that does to a person, not knowing how their loved ones died?
I don't.
And now here you are with the answer. To not seek me out ruthlessly and tell me what happened, that's cruel of you. That's really cruel. You are selfish.
I am deeply sorry. Because I did to you what they did to me. The pain that I felt also became yours. And I've tried really hard to tell you. I wrote many unsent letters, emails that I couldn't
It's
send.
not about how hard it is for you, Puhiza. It's my right to know about my parents.
It is. I blame myself for everything. Sometimes I think Nesa and my mom were killed because of my wrongdoing. Always on me. Like those soldiers that were killed, those soldiers that killed my parents. Maybe they were drugged, or maybe they were brainwashed and beyond empathy.
Don't you dare say that. They knew what they were doing. I need to get out of here. I need to get away right now.
No, wait. Wait, please. I punished myself for a long time. I'm not worthy of anyone's love or friendship, I thought. I haven't visited Kosovo because I felt like a murderer. Please, let me make this right, somehow.
I can't listen to this. I mean, you were a little kid, Puhiza. But to not search me out and tell me what happened, I wanted so badly to know how they died. Come on, Puhiza. Everyone knows everyone in Kosovo. How did you think I was dead all these years? And then you went an entire year without contacting me? Is that how much you care for your old friend?
Please forgive me. Please. I can make it right somehow. Tell me what to do. I will always care for you deeply. Don't doubt my love for you. Don't you dare. I just couldn't find the strength to tell you. I felt such shame and guilt because of what happened. I took your parents away from me. They were so nice. Such good people. Heroes to our people. How could I find the right way to tell you?
I have to go.
Wait, please. At least tell me how you made it out. How you made it out after the war.
I was sent to live with my uncles in Sweden, okay? Why does it matter anymore? It's not like you looked for me.
I didn't want to keep this from you. To hurt you more.
You did, Puhiza. You know, I had nightmares every night. I wanted so badly to hug them, have my dad pat my hair when he kissed me goodnight, or see my mom's expression when I made her laugh. Don't touch me! Why didn't your dad ever tell me the truth about my parents?
He did. He told your aunt the truth. Thought she would pass it on. We didn't know they'd get her too. We thought she was alive. Too many lives they've claimed. All year, I have been trying to find the strength to tell you, I swear. It eats me up day and night.
Don't touch me! You have to fix this.
How?
You figure it out.
Can we see each other again?
Not until you set this right.
Please don't go. Not like this.
I don't want to be reminded of the terrible memories either, Puhiza. Now, you belong to a set of memories I wish I could wipe away.
Longing. Young Puhiza and young Toka are on the stage, but they can't reach each other. Puhiza longs for her mom and her sister, and Toka longs for his mom and his dad.
Who, Yemi? Mom, Dad, where are you? What has happened to you?
mother's favorite lullaby.
Friends forever.
Same park as before. A few days later. Today is a brighter, sunnier day.
When are you leaving?
In 2 weeks,
What are you going to tell my family?
the truth about what happened.
It's going to be difficult.
Yes, it is.
What, you're just going to show up at their doorstep and explain everything?
Yeah, the old school way. They need to hear it in person. The least I can do.
Who knows what kind of reactions you're going to get? A lot of tears, anger.
But I have to set it right, just like you said.
See, you're more courageous than you thought. But I have a better idea. How about I join you? It'll be less scary if we do this together.
But it's my responsibility to do this, not yours. It's mine to repair.
But do you remember how it would squeeze your hand? And remember how it lessened our fear?
Of course.
Well, then there's no reason for us to stop helping each other. Let's face the big bad world together.
Okay.
Good. I have my closure, now it's time to find yours. You know, I'm sorry too. I always had a feeling you were alive. I should have searched for you two. But I didn't because I was scared. I was just trying to block out the war, the past, the helplessness and the fear that I felt. We hid from each other all these years not knowing that we'd be better off together.
We are better off together. No more hiding from each other, okay?
You got it.
And my dad will join us next month after they give him some time off of work. We're going to visit the hills where Mesa and my mom were killed. Can't believe it's happening.
It'll be good for you.
What? Do I have something stuck in my teeth?
You were something else.
What? I'm gonna go find a mirror.
Wait, silly. I was staring into your eyes.
Well, hello again, Mr. Poet.
Your eyes. I can tell the difference between good and bad people. I've seen enough bad people. You have a kind soul.
Thank you. That is the sweetest, nicest compliment I've ever received.
Well, it's the truth.
Would you like to see my father soon?
I'd love that.
Does this mean we can be friends again? I mean, like the old times, the real deal.
I'd love that too. Would you like to have dinner with me soon?
Yes, and we can plan a dinner, just the three of us, traditional food. My dad can't wait to see you again.
I mean, just you and me.
Oh,
What do you say?
well, it has taken you 10 years. I don't know whether I should hold that against you or not.
It has taken me a long time to gather up the courage. Besides, I refuse to wait another 10 years to have a dinner with my best friend. My first crush.
Not another round of confessions, please. I think we've had enough. It lasts us a while.
Why? Do you have something you'd like to confess?
You might have been my first crush, too.
Sounds like it's inevitable then. It's a date. You know, don't take this the wrong way, but I think my parents would have liked to see us together again. Two best friends, turned survivors.
Puhiza and her father are back in Kosovo, at the hill where Nesa and mother were killed. There are flowers and wreaths grouped together in an area that says, "You will not be forgotten."
Dear Mom and Mesa, for that short time, you loved and cared for us. Your light shone brightly, although it only formed a quick flicker extinguished by soldiers. I wish I could forgive, but forgiveness comes with understanding, I think. And I still can't understand, but I try not to be bitter. We miss you. Your unique ways of being in the world. We miss what could have been, what should have been. Our hearts, they hurt. But we remember you. And if we try hard enough, our love overcomes that hurt. Dad has been good to me, filling me with love, trying to make up for you, and I have tried to make up for Nesa. We overcompensate and get it wrong sometimes, but we know you are pleased with our efforts, probably smiling and teasing us from your angle up in the sky. We have tried not to harden our hearts, though it has been difficult. Today we come here to honor you, to remember you, to cherish you, and to remind you that we did not give up on life, joy, and compassion. You deserve that much. We love you. Until we meet again. Love, Puhiza.
Puhiza begins a transformative dance. It is as if all the pain and shame from the war is slowly leaving her body. And she starts to float free because in Albanian her name means soft breeze and soft wind.
"1999 changed our lives, and this is only one page in the book of war."
MFA here at ASU. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Megan O'Connor. I'm the director of a small nonprofit organization that's benefiting from donations tonight.
us that she was interested in creating dialogue. And do you want to tell me about your two majors and how this is emerging in that work?
Sure. So the main reason I wanted to write the play is because to get people to think about the role of bystanders. We always hear of genocide in other countries, but we feel so disconnected from it. So I wanted people to really understand how it affects individuals, to get a sense of what goes on behind the doors, I guess. And I wanted to give people a chance to do something, because since I went through the war as a kid, I feel responsible to do something about it. And so this is why I wrote this play. And
So I think we can just start seeing if you have any questions about maybe the play or Rena's process, or for Megan about her work. Maybe, do you want to say just a little bit more about the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Welcome to America Project is a nonprofit organization. We're based here in Arizona, and we were started as a response to September 11th. Our founder, who lives here locally, actually lost her brother-in-law in the World Trade Center on September 11th. And about a month after that, she met a Muslim family from Afghanistan and found out that she had a lot more in common than she would have thought. It had become a very scary place here in Arizona, in the United States, for this family who was fleeing war and terrorism. They get here to the United States. Now there's a terrorist attack, and not only that, but people were very mistrustful of them. All of a sudden, they were the enemy somehow. The mother was afraid to go out of the house and go to the store. She didn't know she'd be harassed or maybe killed. We had the Sikh gentleman who was killed here in Mesa at that time. And so Carolyn thought, this isn't the Arizona that I know. This isn't the America that I know. These people need friends, they need assistance, they need help, and they need more than just case managers and social workers. So she and her family came down and helped the Afghan family with some things that they needed: shoes, toys, backpacks, school supplies, televisions, furniture, all sorts of things that you and I really consider basic necessities. It was a really wonderful thing to do, but as they left the apartment of that family, they kind of looked around this complex that's situated in West Phoenix that not many mainstream Americans know about, not a neighborhood that a lot of people frequent who might be able to help immigrants. And they left this apartment and looked around and saw there were a lot of other refugee families. So Carolyn started to wonder, what happens to these people? Who befriends them? How do they get to learn English? How do they start to find jobs and things like that? And so she started collecting items and taking them down week after week and helping families. And we've been doing that every weekend since 2001. So here we are now. We work with a cohort of over 350 volunteers every single year. We leave from Broadway, just about 5 minutes from here, every Saturday morning, and we go out to visit 3 to 4 refugee families. We provide them with a whole household of furnishings, and it's a really wonderful way to get to know your neighbors, to put a face to those individuals that we see on the news, those genocide survivors, that victims of mass atrocities, the refugees who are in camps. They're not over there, they're here. As I'm sure you've heard from Rena's play, they are our neighbors. They're what America was built on. And these people are here, and they're here in Phoenix in large numbers. We have about 4,000 coming to Arizona this year. So there's a lot of people that need assistance. This is just one way that you can help.
Okay, so that's sort of the context for our conversation. And with this in mind, Rena's work and her sort of interests and desires with this piece, which we can talk about, or Megan's work that she does, I'll leave it up to you if you have any questions for us or for each other, and we can just have a few minutes to talk. Any questions? Or comments, reflections?
oh,
More snacks?
Gary and Jane, actually, when my family came here in 1999, they helped us a lot. So I wanted to honor them as well with this play, and their church as well. They helped us a lot. So I know firsthand how much organizations like this and churches really help people starting life.
Can you stand up so
about, and I think something that comes up in the play, when she's talking with Bobby, the father, he says at one point, I can't talk about this, but you can. So one of the things I talked with Rena a little bit about was, why are you the person to write this play? Why this story coming from you at this time? So if you want to maybe speak to that a little. I have your notes if you want your notes from before, if that's helpful. Yeah. We talked about it in advance.
I'll just read it.
You don't need to read it.
Okay. As a kid, I was there. I remember, the bomb explosions and the gunshots, and I remember the fear. But I wasn't left tormented by it. I can speak about it freely without being emotional. I have family members who see authorities and they start to shake because the authorities that they knew in our country were bad people, were very evil. And so I also feel like I have a right to speak about this because I have my family who can correct me with historical accuracies. And let's see what else I wrote here.
We talked a little bit about how much distance you had. You were close, but not too close, kind of. That was one thing that came up.
Yeah, I think I said everything. So I'm also studying justice studies, so I have a fairly good idea of the underlying causes of war and genocide. So I feel like I talked about that too a little bit. I didn't ignore that side of it.
I have a question. Rena, how old were you when you came?
I was 8 years old.
Okay, so I guess a follow-up question. Something that we see a lot in refugee families and with refugees that we work with is that second generation, the kids who are about your age or maybe a little bit older, have an immense amount of pressure placed on them because they're typically the ones who learn English first. They're the ones who play translator for their parents throughout most of the school activities in their lives. And I was just curious if that mirrors your experience at all, or kind of what differences you might have had growing up as a kid from 8 to 18.
It is different having parents that are starting all over. My parents, they were teachers there and they were journalists, but when they came here, they couldn't use any of their skills here and they just worked low-wage jobs. And there's a sense of sadness with that. And you kind of have a pressure to do good and be successful, but for me, it's never been bad pressure. They've always been supportive, and it's just made me want to succeed more. But I think some families might have that. But I think we realize, because I went back home last year, and I see the country there, Kosovo, is still very new. There's not a lot of opportunities for my cousins. They go to college. There's not a lot of jobs when they get out, so I feel like I appreciate it more than people who don't know what they have and they take it for granted.
Rena, thank you for what you said earlier. I appreciate that. It's a real honor to be one of your good friends. Thank you. Your play ended on such a sweet note, and throughout it was very emotional and very difficult, and then it ends on a sweet note. And there was a line in there about opening your heart. It was hard, and has that been a journey for you too? To get to, when you go through something like that, is it hard to ever again open your heart to any kind of sweetness with people around you? And
for me, there's a line in the play that says, I always thought maybe they were drugged, or maybe, like for me, I've never really been angry. I don't understand it, and it's not hard for me to open up my heart or anything like that.
how did you know then to put that in your play and to have that?
Maybe I do have some anger. Also, a lot of family members, I have a lot of family members who've gone through a lot of stuff, so I've been around it all, so it's easy for me to take what they have and put it in the play.
We'll go, Vincent. Yeah.
Rena, you said you wrote this play when you were a sophomore, and now you're a senior and you've gone into rehearsal with it. Can you talk a little bit about, each of you maybe, what that process was like, and if things changed, if the play changed through that process, or if you've made discoveries about what you've created as a result of this process?
Yes, there's definitely a lot of changes. Also, when I first started writing the play, I was only studying theater. I wasn't studying justice studies. So I was able to incorporate a lot of these are the 7 steps of genocide. And then I was a sophomore, so I think I made it a little more cheesy. So I think I made it a little more mature. I think I made the play a little more sophisticated by the end. And then also Julie and Mia and Sean and Zach, when we did the first run through, I noticed that I needed to make the language a lot more colloquial because I had written it kind of, I guess, as a foreigner would speak, very formal. And so after our first run through, we made one final change. And then Julie also added some of her own suggestions. And so that was us working together.
One thing that Mina and I talked about some was dramaturgically, and that just, for those of you who don't know the word dramaturgically, just sort of the context for the show and the intentions for the show. One thing that Rena and I talked about some, and because I think the piece wavers in this, and in our conversations this wavered, was about the specificity of Kosovo versus Kosovo as a stand-in or a symbol for these other sites of violence, contemporary and even 10, 15 years old. And I think where we landed, if I may speak to this, I don't know where you've landed, but where I think we landed was that it was a tension of both. And that it has to be rooted in some amount of specifics and individual stories and personal details, and we can still tell a bigger story in that. And I think that that's a process as Rita goes forward with the script that I would recommend that she continues to examine this question of, is it Kosovo as symbol for a bigger conversation about genocide? Or is it a story about history and meaning-making now in the present moment? And then we also had this issue of the dances that we just sort of solved, I think, like last night.
Yeah, the actual show would have a lot bigger and more choreographed dances. This is just a piece of...
It's a stage reading.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a stage reading, and there was a wonderful miscommunication that happened in our process where I thought that I was just going to sort of do a simple staging of the dances, and I had kind of talked to Rena about that, and then she just came in with all of these dances, and I was like, those are amazing, and they should be in the show, even though it's confusing because you're not Puhiza in the show. So we just tried to figure out a way to sort of seamlessly blend those because they were so rich in energy and in storytelling. So anyway.
As Irina's mother and Irina's family, I would like to thank you, each of you, about this play, the director and actress, and you did such a wonderful job because she wrote this story 3 years ago and now we can see this on the stage. So we could not see that without your help. So we really appreciate your help. And in the meantime, I would like one more time to say thank you to Gary and Jane because they have been with us since first day when we came here as a refugee. And now they are not just our friends, but they are our family. They are such a great people. And also I want to thank everybody who came tonight and spent our time together. Thank you.
Maybe we'll open up to questions for Megan, and I have a question if no one else does it. Let's see what the audience has to ask.
Well, I just wanted to comment on your comments, I guess, on the play and the intention there. I think it really came through. I mean, obviously the human experience, I think in a lot of different elements and scenes came through, but in general, I think you can see that in the refugees who come today and in their process. And, you know, these stories, and the story of your family is something that we see over and over and over again. And unfortunately, the wars and the things that are going on in the beginning of the play are things that are happening today and right now. And so I would encourage all of you to take this as a jumping off point and continue to keep that in mind. That when we see these things, it's not something that happened a world away and millions of years ago. It's happening right now today. So important to keep in mind.
For people who feel distant from conflict, how might you recommend that people can bring that close without being overwhelmed or shutting down? But like for the more sort of insulated U.S. Americans who maybe don't feel so touched by that, can you speak to, from your experience, or anybody else for that matter, how to stave off that sense of like, either it's indifference or I collapse under it, but to be able to sort of meet that understanding?
Well, I think that line is different for everyone, and you do have to know what your capacity is. I think there are some people for whom volunteering face-to-face with families and working with them and meeting them at the airport and walking them through all those times when they're really excited to see a carnival and learn exactly what a baseball game is and all those fun times, but you have to be willing to be there during the times when they can't pay their rent and they can't find a job and they realize they're not going to be able to become a doctor here again. And so, those lines are very different, and that's not for everybody. It's a big commitment to become that friend. But there are ways that you can become involved, and I think the first step is just educating yourself. Turning on the news and looking for stories and being open to seeing plays like this and keeping your mind open. Maricopa Community College colleges did a week of genocide awareness just this past month. I guess this month, April 9th through the 13th. They did a whole week of activities and performances and different art displays focusing on the topic of genocide through the ages. And so there's lots of ways locally that you can get involved. It's not just reading the New York Times, but reading the Arizona Republic. There are 4,000 people coming here to Arizona this year. It's more than 10 people a day at the airport. So there's a lot of ways to help them, whether it's just donating your old clothing, donating the chairs that are in your house that you're getting rid of, supporting with financial assistance to organizations that serve them, or by becoming a friend and opening your heart and being a part of that. So it's different for everyone, I guess.
Sure.
And don't jump right in. Definitely educate yourself first and learn a little bit. I think this is a great jumping off point. And I just really want to thank Rena for giving more voice and more opportunity for people to hear about it, because I don't think people do. And it's very easy to shut the door and close your mind and say, that's overwhelming, I can't deal with it. So this is going to be a wonderful way for people to get involved and know.
Any last thoughts or questions? Yeah.
Yes. As we thank our American friends for their help and support, I also want to thank my uncle here. Sorry, it's emotional. He came here in the 80s due to political tensions, and he was just as new as we were when we came here, and he worked many jobs and supported us, sent us school supplies and clothes, and sorry. And I wanted to thank him because he did a lot for us, and not just him, a lot of people who left the country and they worked very hard to support the people who were there. And they were really a big support and help for us financially and morally, and they did a lot politically as well to help us. And I very much appreciate them, and I just want to thank him as well. And this
Thank you. So maybe we can end there. A note of gratitude, right? And I think one of the beautiful things about performance is we get to be in the same room together for a little time together, to witness like those moments of public gratitude. So.
Should we also say thank you to the performers? They did a wonderful job.
Yes. I think, lastly, performances happen because people people come to witness. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining our conversation. There are snacks, if I haven't mentioned that enough. Thank you, Rena. Congratulations.
Thank you to Julie. I was planning to write this, direct it, and acting it. I don't know what I was thinking, so. So you came to Julie.
Thanks a lot. I think Megan might linger for just a minute or so. If you have any questions that you want to, feel free to come up and ask her individually. And grab, I think there's some paperwork outside. You can hit it up on the way out the door. And thanks a lot. Have a great night.
Thank you.
I want to know, is there a memorial for the Kosovo people who immigrated here? Is there a memorial here in the United States? Or no, there's not?
You know, it's there are. I used to live in Denver, and there's a memorial. There's all these like little sites sometimes where there are memorials. I don't know if there's something, hidden away somewhere. It's worth looking up. Yeah, there should be. Yeah.
I just want to say something real quick. Theater is all about catharsis, and tonight, because my family is all here, and a lot of them have been through a lot of this. And I just broke down. Last night I was totally fine, but it was just, for me, it was really powerful to do this. I feel like I was like Puhiza, and the kind of the pain really went kind of felt cathartic, I guess, and power of theater.
Well, this is a good thing to maybe speak to. One of the things we talked about in our conversations was, why, Rena, are you able to tell this story? The amount of distance you maybe have, as well as your proximity. So if you want to speak to that at all, can you use your notes?
I think I'm okay. Well, I was 7, 8 years old when this happened, so I was there. I remember the fear, the gunshots, but I was not tormented by it. I was sheltered by my parents, and I came here before anything that atrocious happened to me. And so I feel like I'm allowed to write about this because I was there, but I can still speak about it because I have family members who break down when they talk about what happened. And I also feel like my family can back me up with historical accuracies. And me and Julie really wanted to make sure also that we didn't want to make it melodramatic. We wanted it to be genuine so that you can see what individuals go through. Like, they live their life normally, but they still have the pain from the past. And also, going through that, I always feel guilty whenever I hear about genocide. I always feel responsible to do something. So this was my way of trying to give back. It's a small way, but I feel like it's a good starting point. And I want to get people to think about, when they hear genocide on the news, how they can maybe actually take some action and do something, because it seems so far away, but it affects people that are just like us.
Another thing that we talked about a little bit was how in telling an individual story, you can tell a bigger story sometimes. And in our conversations, and I think Rena still, you wrote this play when you were a sophomore.
Yes.
And she's about to graduate, so it's a few years old. It's been reworked a little. But in that time, finding how this play fits as a memorial piece, as a testimony and a historical piece, and these aren't necessarily exclusive, or as a piece that's symbolic of genocide in general, or taking an individual story that speaks for a larger story. Doesn't have to be Kosovo, but Rwanda. That there are contemporary issues to this day happening. Syria, So, and I think in your exploration of this piece, I don't know if that's an answered question, but that's in the suit maybe. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
I think you said it pretty well.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a story that's individual, but it relates to people all over the world that go through genocide or war.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I wanted to comment and then we can get into one question. all of us that were from Kosovo to say that we are really proud to be Kosovars because of the people like her and others that are making us really proud to be Kosovars. The message that we can all actually take from this is that when the story is told by a person who went through this experience, this terrible experience, must be told over and over and over. If you do not do that, then you actually are in a position to actually forget the history, which is, if you are there, then you actually don't know what the future is, if you don't know what happened behind. And so, for that reason, I think it's so important that these experiences that Rona and Rina and my niece here did not stop crying because she went through a similar experience for the second night in a row. Last night too. Should tell these stories and should be in the writing so that people can read about these stories. I'm sure there's more people who are not Kosovo Albanians, they're hearing this for the first time. The historical distance makes it so that people forget because we're busy with our lives and other. So I really appreciate the fact that she put forward this endowment and congratulate to her and her family who supported her as well.
Well, that's actually a great jumping off point. For those people who haven't had any kind of personal stake in this conflict or didn't know a lot about it, maybe we can hear from somebody about what your takeaway might have been from this piece, or what sort of jumped out to you about this piece, just in counterpoint.
I think you did a beautiful job of really highlighting some of the awful behavior that we humans are sometimes capable of. And I thought you did it in a very simple manner, Julie. I think you should be commended as well for the way you guided it. But as an immigrant here in this country, I'm so proud of you because you're shedding a lot of light on the immigrant experience and what it means to be here in the United States as a student who's got this horrific background and yet is able to use his or her art to really build community and educate us. So I was somewhat familiar with what happened in Kosovo, but obviously looking at this particular story and then thinking of the overall picture, how much statesmen rarely act like them, and then conflicts like this happen. So I just want to tell you I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. It means a lot.
Cool.
I'll just share a little moment of perspective that I had during the part where she's reliving her memory of losing her mom and her sister. I had to catch myself because for a moment, I think it was the reference to the trains, the repeated reference to getting on the trains, and I was in a space of the Holocaust. I was thinking of that, and I had to remind myself that this was when I was in the 9th grade, and that was startling for me and important.
I think, if I may, unless somebody has an immediate response to that. One of the things that I think has jumped off the page, you should speak to this too, is about the issue of indifference. So the folks from Kosovo are having a different experience with this piece than somebody who was in 9th grade, and this was happening, but I mean, if I may project onto you, relatively insulated, relatively distant from this. It's hard to relate. This happened in my lifetime, in relatively recent memory, and how far away these kinds of things can seem, and yet how actually immediate they actually are for so many people. So that issue of indifference, and if you maybe want to speak to like your work in justice studies and stuff like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So, you said the Holocaust in 9th grade, but even today there's, genocide going on, and I feel yesterday someone asked me the question, what was the rewriting or editing process like? At the time when I wrote the play, I was only a theater major, and then I also took on justice studies, and I learned a lot. So a lot of Toka's lines about these are the steps of genocide. I took that all from justice studies, and it just made me understand genocide more. And I feel like that made the play more powerful. And I think maybe people even reading the play can look at that and maybe take an interest in it and search online. Well, what is genocide exactly, and what can we do about it? How can leaders be punished by the international community? And so taking on just the studies really helped me, I think, make the play more meaningful because I understood the root of it. It wasn't just simply from a personal experience or from an emotional experience.
Which I think goes back to that first thing about your voice in this. Why you, where are you speaking from? The closeness with a little bit of distance, plus this sort of intellectual or analytical piece as well to support it, the history, the theory. I think too about the line in the play with the father. He says, I can't talk about this. It's hard for me to talk about it, but you can, he says to Puhiza. To me, that strikes me every night, how you're particularly positioned to tell this story.
I always felt a beauty to not be a bystander, so if you can take anything away from this, I'd urge you to, this is Megan O'Connor, she said this yesterday, she was talking about bystanders, maybe taking a moment to look more at the news and think about what you can do, even locally here, you can help with refugees, maybe once a week or even once a month, because we're a brotherhood and sisterhood, and I feel like we need to help each other. We're so used to not helping each other.
Well, and I think the thing that we were talking about is how overwhelming it is. Bad stuff is happening in the world right now to lots of people. And it's so easy to get overwhelmed and collapse and shut down, and it's hard to know where to begin. And so Megan from the organization, the Welcome to America Project, she said, really the first step is just sort of tune in. Start to educate yourself. Don't get so overwhelmed. And then just do the little that you can. Once you have started educating yourself, just do the little that you can. Lots of people doing the little does make a difference. I think that's good. Yeah, Grandma.
Yeah, I can't help but talk about the play itself.
Yes, please.
Its evolution.
That is the thing.
I mean, I think you've done a really good job of working through it, and Julie also did a wonderful job of incorporating the author into the play itself, because I enjoyed seeing the narrator go through the play and narrating certain moments and then dancing. I just think that for some reason I feel like that should be incorporated into the play itself. Right? I think it needs that, because I was afraid that you would need soldiers and a bunch of dancers, and this would become this elaborate type of experience.
Yeah.
But done simply with one narrator who moves us through all those moments, I think is a really cool and very simple and elegant way of taking us into that world and incorporating a little bit of magic into what is essentially kind of a realistic play, at least in terms of their relationship. But then the memory takes us into a much more magical. I mean, it's not a faithful.
Surrealistic.
Yeah, surrealistic. That's a better word. That can incorporate dance and music, and I think that really reaches us. I think very effectively. But also because I saw you in it, and I thought that also made it powerful for me as seeing the author move us through it.
Well, I'd love to say that was all part of the concept, but actually that came from a misunderstanding. I think that the first rehearsal I came in and I said, oh gosh, Rita, it'd be great if you did the dances. And then she was like, oh, and I said, okay, never mind, I got it. I'm gonna go block them. I got other plans. I'll go do something else. So I went away and I blocked them without her. But I said, but think about dances. And so I went away and found other solutions. Basically, what you would have seen was the stuff without Rena. She would have narrated it, and you would have seen the actors moving simply through space, kind of basic topography through the space, while she sort of narrated from the side. But she came in, and she had developed these beautiful dances, and she had music, and she's like, okay, let me just take a few minutes of your time and show you all of these different dances I created. And I went, well, I have to use that somehow. So it was really just a marriage. It really just came from, I thought, I mean, that night I was like, okay, I don't know how to put these two together yet. I'll get back to you. I was like, these are great, and I don't know how they fit. And then I think we really just kind of put them together on Thursday. But I had kind of developed, because at that point I had scenes picking up in different places, so I had to get the other actors there, you know, so it was really just kind of a happy accident. I wish I could say, oh yes, and this alienation and she, you know, like that's solving problems, that's all that was.
Also, Kathy, I wrote in the program, I want to thank people who helped us as refugees, and last night Gary and Jane were here. They helped us when we came here in '99, and we've been friends ever since. And I want everyone, Kathy, stand up. And maybe my mom wants to speak more about that. She really helped us when we came here.
Story. When a group of us were over at the apartment complex where the extended family was living, we were doing English classes, and Rena and Arva and Nora and I don't know who else, they were just kind of buzzing around here, not particularly interested. And then Rena dragged everybody into the bedroom, and she created a skit. We were 7, 8 years old, and they came out and performed a skit for us. So this is all we done at a very early age.
Thanks, Kathy. It's just a
Wonderful.
Maybe we'll just take one or two more.
Yeah, I would like to say something about Kathy because she's our very special friend, and I really would like to thank her because we know her on the first day when we came in USA as a refugee, and since that time we never stopped talking with each other and having contact with each other. I remember when my daughters had been still younger, and she came to our apartment in that time, and she took them and she sent them to the library, to the theater, movies, and zoo, and other places. And sometimes she came and she brought a big box with books. And she inspired them too. So in Rena's work, you can see Kathy's impact. She's a wonderful person. She does a lot of volunteer jobs. So I really would like to thank her.
It shows refugees who come here, especially young people, it shows how much one person can have an impact on them. And also my cousin, she's a social worker, and she helps the Albanian community a lot.
She translated for us all the time.
Yeah.
We didn't speak English
So
all in that time. So yes, she did.
she's continually doing.
I think
But I'm sorry about to thank everybody who came here to see this play tonight because without audience, there is no play. So we couldn't share our ideas without you because Rina wrote this story 3 years ago. But without Judith, the director, help, without actors' help, without cameraman's help, and all of other people who contributed to make this play, in life, we couldn't do nothing without you. And I would say something else, like Professor Shahli said, and Julie too, that we have a news on TV every night, and we see genocide and something else, or maybe we can read the book history, but it's something different when people who experience genocide every second, every minute for years, and they deeply, felt that. If you hear the stories for them, it's something different. You will learn something real. It's all different. And I think, like Mr. Shine said, that these stories should be told because some people don't understand. Some people know that, but some people don't. So I think you and smart people, you should do something. We should create big movement to do something, not to stop because we cannot stop genocide, but we can prevent or we can survive one life on one smile. It's better to do something than nothing. Like Mother Teresa said, we can do only just all the time big things, but we can do small things and change our world and our life. So all together we can do something. I remember during the war, Madeleine Albright, she tried hard to stop genocide in our country because she experienced in her childhood genocide and as a Jewish child. So she understood, she was in our skin or in shoes when she was a young lady. And she tried to do everything with others, of course, with Bill Clinton, Wesley Clark, and Cook, and other American diplomats. And we are so thankful, and we appreciate very much. I remember when we came here, we have been so tired, we have been depressed, and I thought I will never be able to smile again. I will not be able to live again a normal life. I will not be able to cook for my kids. And it was so hard just to give a smile to somebody. But with, our American friends have been such nice with us, we started, slowly, step by step, day by day, to go back in normal life. Because it is hard, it's very hard to forget. In fact, we will never forget, what we, experienced, but still, it's with nice friends around you, the life would be easier, much easier than. So I don't know.
And something else to think about, the majority here, not everyone, but Albanians, so all these people here, if it hadn't been for the intervention, we would all be dead. Most likely we might have survived. But at least 5 or 6 of us would have been murdered or raped or killed. It could have been me, it could have been my mom or anyone else. So everyone in this room, it's people that are just like us. So it's talk about that.
Last thoughts, I think we're about at time.
Flowers for Rena! Thank you. I love you so.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I knew you too.
Oh, yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah, I got you on that.
The weight is gone, and I'm not upset or anything.
So happy to work with it. And I was like, I mean, that it's, great to have,
I want to give credit to my sister for doing my hair and makeup. I just give credit to sisters. We do that.
I thought I'd be tougher the second.
Great. This is kind
Mushroom vegetable. For your meditation.
Faleminderit shumë që keni ardhur, shumë jeni faleminderit edhe juve natën e mirë. Hi Katie.
You did such an awesome job.
Thank you.
That was so gorgeous. It was so impactful. I
love the movement parts, especially. Like, so much of the plays about her, like, struggling with words.
Yeah.
And her movement just, like, says what words can't say sometimes.
Yeah.
I thought it was so profound. It was so impactful. And I hope your fundraising goes really well. It's just, like, such a good job. Congratulations.
Thank you. Did you like the music too?
I did. It was really cool. It was such a good, you did such a good job. Have a good
She's
night.
a music major, so. Thank you, Andrew, for recording this all the time. This is my aunt. During the war, they ran her over in a car, so, and this was especially touching for you. Come with us next time.
Thank you very much.
I'll ask you part.
Uravneš pojď, všechny se upravneš.
To mě určitě podjedu, to das Projekt nächstes Jahr mit
Any reaction? Okay.
Jej, kultura, pomimo tym kompletimy się.
I